You know, there are three great staple crops that feed the world: corn, wheat, and rice. Okay? Probably 20%, I believe this is the correct figure, of the world's calories come from wheat. So if you think about 1/5 of the world's diet, they actually probably get a little higher of their protein from wheat, because wheat is a high protein cereal relatively, because you need it to have high protein to make bread. So it's a huge crop when it comes to feeding the world. I think wheat's one of the most sustainable crops, and you know, if you look at it, it's been grown widely for 10,000 years. So on an index of sustainability, you know, is that pretty good? I mean, do you need a longer time frame than 10,000 years? It's a water efficient crop, it's a nitrogen efficient crop. It grows over the winter, so we have much less soil erosion than what you have when leaving a field bare. Its rooting system is very deep, which means it breaks up hard pans, which means it helps the corn that grows after it. So there's a lot of very good uses for wheat, and it's very sustainable. We're very market conscious, so we want to reduce farmer inputs and give consumers good value. Breeding for disease resistance means there's less pesticides. Breeding for better nitrogen use efficiency means we put less fertilizer on. Breeding for things like short stature means you don't use chemicals to reduce the height. Breeding for adaptation so that you can grow wheat in soils that were previously difficult to grow wheat in is again a way of adding sustainability. Well, if the U.S. were a wheat importing country, it basically is the same problems that you could have anytime you're an importing country. So for food security and for the quality of life that Americans are used to, it's important that we produce wheat for ourselves. It's important we produce wheat for the people who count on us to produce wheat for them.
Okay, let's be serious here, because if your workout is less than an hour a day, which most people's is, an hour or less per day, then there's nothing you really need during that workout other than a bottle of water, right? And your normal meals. So your normal meals might increase a little bit, but even if you were working out at maximal intensity for that hour, that's 600 calories. That's a lot, but most people don't work out at maximal intensity for an hour. They're going to work out at, you know, moderate intensity. So that's mostly going to be someplace between 300 and 400 calories. 300 and 400 calories is not a lot of calories. So you don't really have to change a lot about what you eat to do that. That's just not much food. For me, it might be something drinkable. It could be a sports drink. It could be half of a bar of some kind. It could be half of a banana. It might be half of an English muffin. You know, I'm saying halves. I'm going with small. If it's right before the workout, I'm going to tend to go small. And especially if it's going to be an intense workout. That's going to be like so much that I'm not going to get a lot of blood flow to my digestive system. So it's going to make me sick if I eat a lot. On the other hand, if I'm going for a 4-hour bike ride that we're going to be working at a very low aerobic level, then I'm going to eat a lot more, because you need a lot more, and because it's not going to be hard on my digestive system to do that. In terms of maintaining your weight, calories are the king. They determine what's going to happen. So in terms of how you get those calories and what time of day is kind of a matter of personal preference. I don't think we tend to do well when we fast for, 20 hours at a time and then, bulk all the calories into one sitting. But some people do better with, a meal every 2 to 3 hours. Other people need a little bit longer in between. So I think it's about really what works for you and your hunger patterns. So bottom line is, I do eat whatever I want, but I'm kind of picky about it and careful. I mean, I'm only a 5 foot 3.5 inch female who's 52, so I only get so many calories a day, even if I am working out all the time. So yeah, I eat all the good stuff, and I tend to save a little room for some of the things I like M&Ms and Oreos.
The question is whether or not it's more important to cut carbs or cut fat in order to lose weight. And the short answer is it really doesn't matter if your ultimate goal is to be a little bit slimmer than you are now. It's really about calories, and that's the most important thing. So you can cut carbs and sure, you'll lose some weight. You can cut fat and you'll lose some weight. The ultimate goal is to try to make sure that you're not consuming more calories than you're expending. And if you want to lose weight, you've got to expend more than you're consuming. So in the short term, it may seem that the low-carb diet has a slight advantage. And this is because when you cut carbs, you tend to reduce your glycogen in your liver and skeletal muscle. And when you store glycogen, you store water with it. So out goes the glycogen and out goes the water too. So a lot of the weight loss initially in a low-carb diet is nothing more than just water loss. In the long term, studies show quite clearly that it doesn't really matter whether you're on a low-carb diet or a low-fat diet. Cutting calories is what is most important. It's not the carbs, it's the calories. So think about that the next time you want to consider a diet for weight loss. Try to select a diet that you think you can stay with and it's tolerable for you and gives you the desired result.
I've been doing this my whole life. You know, as soon as I got out of college, I came back and started farming.
I grew up on a ranch about an hour and a half north of here, 100 miles, and loved it. So when I went to college, that's what I looked for. Somebody who wanted to come back to this area, raise our family. We like the values, the way of living.
We'll help him move cattle, and we help plant and stuff. So.
I think that wheat is really healthy for us. I think there's a lot of different ways that we use it in our daily lives. We use it in a ton of stuff. It's affordable, it's easy to fix. You know, you plan your meals, you really are looking to get the most nutritious, well-balanced meal that I can for my kids. And wheat's a big part of that. It's a big part of what I feed them every day, usually every meal. That's my job, is to keep my family healthy.
As a wheat farmer, when we see information on the news or the internet that says wheat is bad for people or, you know, makes them fat or anything like that, it upsets us because we feel like a lot of times it's just bad information that they're getting from an unreliable source that doesn't know all the facts.
Some of the wheat foods that I feed my family, pancakes, breads, we do a lot of sandwiches.
Pasta.
Waffles.
Pies, pie crust.
Yes, we do a lot of pies, rolls. And it's easy and it's quick, you know. Makes a good meal.
And it's really good.
One question I get asked quite frequently is whether or not moderate intensity exercise is more or less effective than higher intensity exercise for losing body fat. And the answer to that question is, well, it depends on how many calories you expend. So the intensity is not nearly as important as the total calorie expenditure. So it's a tricky question because not all people expend the same number of calories performing a given activity. And a number of people will compensate in different ways for their energy expenditure during exercise. They may become a little less active throughout the day. They may eat more. And this makes tremendous variability in terms of individual responses. My recommendation would be select an exercise program that includes a mix of higher and lower intensity exercise, perhaps some intervals, some resistance exercise training, a lot of variety in the exercise program to keep you motivated. And then take a look at what happens on the scale. So if you're not losing weight and you are exercising a lot, perhaps you need to look at your diet or perhaps up your exercise load. And this can be done by either increasing the intensity as tolerable, the duration of each exercise session, or the number of times you exercise per week. And see what you're comfortable with and go with that.
Well, I've always eaten a lot of grains. That's just a given. I've always actually eaten a lot of breads and wheat products. You can ask my mother if you like, but I think I said something along the lines when I was about 14 or 15 and training for swimming. I said, Mom, I think I could just live on bread and, I think I said milk, because I got to eat them because I like them. Second, I eat them because they digest well with me, so there's no issue there. Third, the nutrients, how can you deny that? I mean, even if you're talking about refined grains, you're looking at B vitamins, iron. These are things that all athletes need. In particular, I've always been one who's always tended to be low in iron, so for me, looking at my diet, cereals, pasta, breads are probably the biggest source of iron in my diet, even though I do eat red meat. For athletes too, we need all the same things, we just need more of them because we're metabolizing faster. So these are convenient, they're easy. If I have a loaf of bread in the house, there's about 1 million things I can do with it, from make sandwiches to make toast to put it in meatloaf or whatever. And pasta's kind of the same way. I mean, pasta is ready in 10 to 15 minutes after the water boils. How can you beat that? I can't wait for meals to be ready in an hour. They got to be done now. I'm hungry. So anyway, so that's how they fit. They're easy, they taste good, and they provide nutrients. Doesn't get any simpler than that.
In 1886, my great-great-grandfather settled here, brought his family, and started raising food. Over 126 years later, we're still here raising families and raising food. Wheat is well developed for this area. It's a drought tolerance crop. We only get 15 inches of rain a year, so we try to raise 2 crops every 3 years and leave it fallow in between to conserve moisture to build a profile in the soil for the next crop. There are different classes of wheat grown in the U.S. We grow hard red winter wheat and a little bit of hard white wheat.
Hard red winter wheat is used for mostly bread,
So in your all-purpose flour, you're going to have a mix of wheats, but a large portion of it is hard red winter wheat. So you can use it for making any type of a bread product, cookie product, cake product. Everywhere in the world that eats bread is using hard red winter wheat.
The conservation practices that we use, we're all no-till, meaning we don't till our ground in between crops. We try to leave as much residue as we can on the surface. We have a lot of wind in this country, so it keeps it from blowing away. It also helps water infiltration, so we get more water into the soil, which thus helps us raise better crops. When I get up in the morning, it is important that I take care of my crop that I have in the field. But it is my passion to be looking to say, how is my crop going to be better next year, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now? The only way that happens is if I take care of the land. The land and I have a symbiotic relationship. If I take care of it, it will take care of me. It's my goal that this land is productive for my family, generations to come.
Hi there. So the question is, if I want to gain muscle mass quickly, are there any sports supplements that can help me? It cannot be overstated that the cornerstone for building muscle mass is following a proper resistance training program that provides a progressive overload to skeletal muscle. To maximize gains, training plans should be accompanied by a well-chosen diet that is nutrient-dense and provides adequate carbohydrate for fueling high-intensity sessions and adequate protein to help muscle repair and to support muscle growth. Scientific evidence does suggest that there's a couple supplements that could help you with this, including creatine. Creatine may augment muscle gains by enhancing your capacity for training and by supporting muscle protein synthesis. Whey protein is also popular, but it's probably most beneficial when access to dietary sources of protein are not convenient or practical. It is also important to note that the use of any dietary supplement is rarely shown to be effective in the absence of a proper training program and probably won't help you overcome a bad diet. Dietary supplements, including the ones that I mentioned, also have their potential disadvantages, including being expensive, potentially ineffective, and harmful, since ingredients, content, and the absence of banned substances or contamination cannot always be guaranteed.